What's a NSFW detail about a historical figure that's normally left out of the history books? A bit late to the party. But during WW1, prostitutes in Britain were more expensive if they had STDs. This was because if a soldier hired them and got infected, the soldier could be honorably discharged and not have to fight in war. Ancient Egyptians believed the god Adam created the universe by masturbating to ejaculation, and that the ebb and flow of the Nile corresponded to how much he came. To honor this, the pharaohs ceremonially masturbated into the river. Horus and Set also tried to impregnate each other with their semen in a couple of myths. It's becoming more well known, but Mozart wrote a chorale literally called Lick My Ass to piss off the bishop who employed him in Salzburg, hoping to get fired so he could go to Vienna. Lewis and Clark described the screaming speeps that they got from eating unfamiliar food camas in detail in their journals. Scientists were able to track Lewis and Clark's campsites by following the mercury they shed out all across America. After Alan Turing cracked the Enigma code, essentially ending WW 2 years earlier than expected and saving countless lives, he was thanked by the British government in the form of chemical castration. All because he was a gay man. Probably said here elsewhere. But Victor Hugo, author of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, among other tales, was a notorious philanderer who had affairs on top of affairs with prostitutes throughout his life. When he died, all of the brothels in Paris had to close because so many prostitutes attended his funeral. Heard he also would write naked, and ask someone to keep his clothes outside the door so he'd continue writing. And this kinky granddad was visiting brothels yai into his old age. Heard that he had a mark in his diary for each sort of visit. Peter Tchaikovsky was a submissive bottom. In one note, never before published in Russian or English, Tchaikovsky wrote of a young servant with whom I am more in love than ever, adding, "My God, what an angelic creature, and how I long to be his slave, his plaything, his property." Patrick Henry, the American founding father better known for his quote, "Give me liberty or give me death," kept his wife imprisoned in a cellar because of her frequent outbursts due to postpartum depression. His wife had eventually died in that cellar, and he had buried her in an unmarked grave. 10/10 quote, but the wife-killing part always seems to get left out of history texts. French President Flix IV died while getting his dick sucked. The whole press joked about his fate, with numerous word games. The lady he was with was nicknamed the Pompa Funèbre, which is the name for funeral services in French and also literally means funeral pump. There was also, as one of the comments described, the phrase he wished to be Caesar, but was only Pompey. Pompey is Pampa in French, and its pronunciation is identical to pomp, which means pumped. Ben Franklin was a notorious flirt, and hit on and/or plow just about every woman he ever met. Single women, married women, young women, old women, women of title, women of the royal line, Protestant women, Catholic women, all of them. Big dicks were considered barbaric in ancient history. The Greeks especially thought that it showed men with big rock-hard full-blooded cocks were full of lust and low intelligence. This is why most of their statues today have them displaying a small dick. I was born in the wrong age. Edit. Tie for the awards, friends. It's said that Henry VIII exploded in his coffin. Dogs then licked up the Henry juice. The first thing the father of microbiology, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, put under a microscope was semen. They understood that semen was integral to the creation of life but didn't yet understand the concept of single-cell organisms. He fully expected to see tiny little humans in his jizz. So yeah. The first thing he did was whack off on a slide and look at it. Princess Diana and her LE gadget, a sex toy that she carried around with her when she went on diplomatic trips. She had even shown a table of foreign officials her toy as a prank on numerous occasions. She also believed it brought her good luck. One time she forgot to bring it with her and actually asked a bodyguard to go back to the hotel to fetch it for her. Edit. OK, just checked, and she apparently left it all the way back in the UK while on a trip to Nepal, not just at a hotel. And ordered it to be dispatched to the capital Kathmandu. There are bunches of photos in the press of Diana smiling holding a mine with headlines talking about her bravery, etc. Not shown in most pictures was the guy guiding Diana in the minefield. An ex-British Army guy who was working for a charity/NGO dealing with mines. A former housemate of mine worked with him some years later and passed on this anecdote about why Diana was laughing/smiling at this moment. As the guy handed her the deactivated mine. Told her its name. Origin. What it would do to someone when activated, he then said, "I bet you'd love shove one of these up Camilla's arsehole." George Washington had severe hemorrhoids. To the extent that he couldn't even ride a horse into battle sometimes. And had to be pulled on a cart. Guess we now know why he was standing on the boat in that one painting. Not hidden in his home country, but not known by the rest of the world though, is the fact that H.C. Anderson left a mark in his diary. Every time he had masturbated. Sometimes with a little note on the side. With his thoughts about the session. After Alois Alzheimer gave the first ever speech describing the symptoms of what would later become known as Alzheimer's disease. No one in the audience asked him any questions or made any follow-up comments. Despite the fact that this was quite literally one of the most important presentations ever given in the field of medicine. For real. Alzheimer's disease affects about 6% of people aged 65 and older. It's a big deal. So why did no one pay it much attention? Turns out they were all much more focused on the next guy on the docket, who allegedly was there to talk about compulsive masturbation. Literally. This post is humans in a nutshell. Paul Revere would ride from Boston to Newport RI to cheat on his wife. No. Babe. For real. The redcoats are actually coming. I swear. In school I was taught that Ben Franklin had a string of pearls that was several feet long. He would add a pearl to it each time he slept with a new woman. JC, what kind of school did you go to? The School of Hard Cocks. Groom of the stool. This is the guy who wiped the king's bum and inspected the stool for parasites and whatnot in ye old England. By the 16th century it had become one of the highest honors at the Tudor court because it allowed close and private access to the king. A coveted position. President Grover Cleveland. 49. Married Frances Folsom. 21. In the White House. He was basically her godfather and even bought her a baby bed when she was an infant. She knew him as Uncle Grover as a child and told him she wanted to marry him in the White House one day. Groomer Cleveland. Kaiser Wilhelm II. The last German emperor wrote very sexual letters to his mum when he was a teenager. Little late but worth a shot. Elizabeth Bishop and Robert Lowell the poets had a 30-year letter exchange where Robert, while married, swooned over Elizabeth after he initially met her, declaring his love and want to propose for her all while being married, and her blatant denial and uncomfortable lesbian anguish at this fact. He threatened suicide and lots of self-harm while she's just like, haha, let's read this book together and not think about romance. He was a manic cocaine freak and she was a crazy alcoholic lesbian with a toucan. She drank rubbing alcohol when denied conventional drinks. There's a great play highlighting these events called Dear Elizabeth. The great magician Houdini once escaped a prison cell while fully nude as to not hide anything to escape. However, what the guards failed to check was that he hid a skeleton key in his ass checks. Freud loved cocaine. He had a friend with a morphine addiction. And he thought giving the guy cocaine would cure him. It did not. Abigail Adams apparently spent a lot of time worrying that her son John Quincy Adams would jerk off or bang whores when he left the house, and advised against doing both in several letters to him. You must only do that at home, son. What's a NSFW detail about a historical